What's up? It's Dave from Dave vs. AXIE. How's it going, YouTube? This is going to be my kind of second official video after the response to the Ronin scholarship walkthrough. I had some other requests for content, and we passed over 1,000 views and 100 subscribers, so I figured why not? With the new arena season coming up, I figured I'd offer 3 tips that helped get me from around 1,400 MMR to over 2,000 MMR and finish right around the top 200 of last season. And so hopefully these couple tips are somewhat obvious, but also I think are helpful for you and good reminders that will help you move out of the 1,200 to 1,400 MMR range and become more competitive in the AXIE arena. So with that, let's move forward. So the first tip, check their cards. It's probably the most important thing to do when you first get into a battle is make sure that you are reviewing your opponent's cards and knowing exactly what they can or cannot do against you. As you become more and more seasoned within the game, you will just be able to look at the AXIE that they have and know what cards they have available to use. You may not know all the body parts from the eyes or the ears. For some, maybe speed you might not know, or health, but you will at least know the attack cards that are available to them. And memorize those. So if we're looking at here, this is a plant double aqua team that I faced earlier today. And so what I want to review there is just some of the key things that I look for when I'm battling against somebody. Probably the most common things are energy steals or energy creation, high attack, high shield, and then anything else that can disrupt the game. So things like stuns, can they jump to you, prioritize certain targets based on cards. This one's a little. This team is fairly straightforward, and so we'll review it really quick. So as you click in on them, the first up is the plant, which is their frontline tank. The main calls I have here is obviously Sirius having the energy steal, so there is risk that they will be able to steal energy based on their turn. Second is going to be Wooden Stab with the high damage, and third would be Pumpkin with the high shield. So over 100 shield can shield almost full damage from almost any attack. Wooden Stab 100 damage as well can do a lot of damage as well. So anytime I see anything over 100 damage on attack or defense, I always make note of it. Carrot Hammer, it is something to call out because it can create energy if the shield is broken, but it is not something that I would say I'm going to prioritize in the back of my mind that I have to remember strategy for. And again, if you're in kind of those lower mid-tier ranks, that's something that will not be as important as would be to note the high attacks or high shield items. And as I was going through trying to plan for this, I think I'm going to do a separate YouTube video of the cards that I kind of prioritize and what I really look out for. So I will post that hopefully in the next week to also help you understand kind of how I view it kind of more from a higher level when you get to kind of around 2000 MMR and some of the things that you do want to pay attention to as you are playing the game. Their midline Aqua, similar notes here, but the main 2 things I want to take away are the high damage cards. So we could talk about Babylonian. You should always start to read the card text to know the extra benefits they may get from using that card. But if my frontline AXIE does not have a card attached to it, and this AXIE attacks it, it will get a boost on damage with the shell jab when it is used. So that is another note there too. But both those being over 100, I do want to make note of that. Again, for the points of this video, Shipwreck does have high defense. It's not something I'm going to make note of right now. And then Tail Slap does create energy, but again, I'm more worried about them stealing my energy than I am about them creating energy at this point when we're only about 1,200 to 1,400 MMR. Finally, their backline. Their backline is an absolute unit as far as doing damage. All of their cards are over 100 damage. So if you can get 4 of those off in a turn, you're talking at least 400 damage. Probably even against a plant, unless you had the reptile with critical escape, you might be able to get that down to like 360 or 350-ish. But nonetheless, you're looking at a lot of damage from that that backline Aqua. So you really want to make sure that you're monitoring the cards they have, or what cards they have used to know about how many cards they still have available before they run through their deck the first time. And that kind of comes to another point on not only checking their cards, but counting their cards. So this is actually after the first turn. You can see in the top right here, it has a deck of cards. It says 6. That tells you how many cards were in their hands before the last turn. So that means when we all start the duel, I have 6 cards, they have 6 cards. We know that. However, since they didn't use any cards that first turn, I now know they have 9 total cards. Had they say they had used 2 cards in that first turn, they would have been down to 4, drawn 3, and I know they'd have 7 right now. But this would still say 6. After this turn, that would then switch to 7. Or if they didn't use any cards in the first turn, it would go to 9. So this just shows you how many cards they had at the beginning of the prior round. So in order to know how many cards they have right now, you would need to remember exactly how many cards were used in that current round. It's a little bit more of an advanced tactic, but it is an important thing to know as you are moving up the ranks, how many cards they actually have in their hand right now on that turn. And that will evolve too based on if an AXIE faints and they're no longer in the battle. Or if there's also discards and other cards like that. Discard cards will also impact that as well. All right, so this is a quick video. My second tip is learn how to count energy and do it really well. I will say, even for myself, this is not something that is just second nature to me. I do need to make sure I pay attention when I am counting energy and when I am playing Arena. But if you talk to or watch Indes or Elijah especially, they do a lot of great YouTube videos. I encourage you to check them out. But more specifically, they talk about a lot how you need to make sure you're monitoring how many energy your opponent has. It's probably the most important thing when you're talking about Arena, is knowing how much energy they have, because that will impact what you're going to do. Maybe because if they have a ton of energy, you don't want to attack into it. If their plant tank hasn't used any cards yet, they might shield up a lot. These are all really important things to note. So there's a quick clip here that I want to show over 2 turns of just what happened in one of my battles. So what you see here is, as we know, we start with 3 energy at the beginning of the battle, and then each turn or round after that, you're going to get 2 more. So I chose to use 3 energy. They chose to only use 1. But the card they did use was Carrot Hammer. And Carrot Hammer, when that shield is broken, they get an extra energy, which you saw at the beginning there. And you can see at the bottom here, they already show 3 energy, and I show my 0. So at the beginning of next round, I'll start with 2, and they will start with 5. So now, since they had the energy surplus, they chose to attack with their beast. They used 4 energy. Since I, again, only had 2 energy, I used both my 2 energy cards, and I had a 0 energy card here I could use as well, just to kind of create energy for my next turn. So I felt pretty confident in that I could at least kill the plant before it had a turn. That's why I was also comfortable using it, even if he maybe did have Sirius available to steal that energy. I felt good about it. So we'll see the turn go ahead. I gain that energy, and you see the 1 pop up right there. So that'd be something for my opponent to remember. He is using Ronin, which crits, and since he has Imp tied to it too, it will give him energy for each crit he hits. He's going to hit 2. He hit Ronin and he hit Imp. So that moved his from 1, you can see here on the right-hand side, to 3. So it's not the easiest thing to remember. You can always kind of track and train yourself too. One of the practices I did when I kind of realized how important energy was I would make note in the battle exactly how much energy my opponent had, and then I'd go back and re-watch the replay and see if I was correct in how much energy they had after each one. You can get really good at it. It's not necessarily that difficult. The only time it will become difficult is if you end up knocking out an AXIE who has 0 energy cards at their disposal, and you didn't get to see what cards they had played, or they were set up to play, but they never actually got to play. So that will cause potentially some confusion if you're unsure, and you might be 1 energy off or so there, or potentially up to 2 if they had if they end up having the ability to use 2 0 energy cards. So that's just something to kind of remember in the back of your mind as you do move forward, and you kind of play more within the arena. So learn how to count their energy. I recommend you kind of practice as you play. And so again, make some notes or kind of chicken scratch on the side, and then go back, rewatch the video, and you can confirm if you were actually correct or how far off you were. And it's also good to watch the replays too, to learn why your opponent made the moves they made, what cards did they draw, and you can also then pretend they're them, pretend you're playing their cards, and learn how to play a little bit differently too. So first thing, check their cards and kind of count their cards, then learn how to count their energy. And counting their energy is probably the most important thing in the game to actually move up the rankings. The last thing the third tip that I'd pass on to is something that I didn't know. It is pretty common knowledge now, but if you are new and you are kind of stuck in that 1200 to 1400 MMR, it is a very important distinction to make. So when you talk about damage advantages and disadvantages, the base checker as far as if you're going to get damage, advantage, or disadvantage, or neutral is you need to know the card type. So if I have a beast that is using say I have a beast that's using an aqua card, right? So my beast, it looks like it has advantage against a plant, and I'm attacking a plant. Because I use an aqua card, I actually get disadvantage because it's the card's type that goes to that actual axis type that confirms or sets up the actual advantage or disadvantage. So that was something that I was not 100% aware of when I first started the game. It was a pretty quick learning lesson because I kind of got stuck at that 1400 MMR when I first joined in my first season of last season. But once you learn this, it's a very easy thing to remember. It can be a little confusing at start, but it is very helpful. So when you're looking at this, you really want to remember what is your card type, and then what are you attacking. So if I have a bug or beast card, if I'm attacking a reptile, plant, or dusk, I will get a 15% damage advantage. If I am attacking an aquatic, bird, or dawn with a bug or beast card, I will have disadvantage. The reason why the mystery or secret classes are here for Mech, Dusk, and Dawn is because that their body type falls into those pools. There is no Mech, Dusk, or Dawn cards right now, so that's again just kind of a nice reminder is that the card sets up the advantage disadvantage, but then it depends on what body type you are attacking. So to reiterate, know your opponent's cards, learn those, and learn how to kind of count and keep track of them. Second is know how much energy your opponent has at all times, and then third is just make sure you're aware and know your damage calculation. As you play more and more, you'll start to memorize roughly what that damage calculation is going to be, because you'll know that this beast when you play these two cards are going to hit say 164 against a plant if it's not, or 169. So you'll learn those over time, or at least roughly what it's going to be, so you can then try to calculate and not overuse cards when you would have already gotten the kill, potentially guaranteed. Something to remember too. And then, not necessarily a tip, but pay attention. Paying attention is, if not energy, I would say pay attention is by far one of the most important things to do when you are playing AXIE Arena. It is very hard to win, especially at a high level, if you are not paying full attention, because not only do you need to do the things I laid out in the video here today, but you need to remember more things. So you need to remember what cards did they just use? How many times have they used that in the battle thus far? Because if they've used two of the same card early on, they can't draw it until they work through that entire deck. But if they only use it once, it still is a potential that they're going to use it again in an upcoming round soon. So really make sure you pay attention. If you watch any streamer or any new streamer especially, it's one of the most common talks about things is that we don't remember what's going on. We didn't see what card was just played. We don't know if they just gained energy, lost energy, the amount of cards that were played. If you watch Bryson, myself, I know that VZ talks about it too. Just make sure that you're aware of what's going on, because it is hard to do other things. And if you're not a streamer, it could be that you're watching TV, you're talking to a friend, you're just outside walking the dog, whatever it might be. If you're not giving it full attention, there is a good chance that you're also going to struggle in the arena, especially as you start to rank up. So those are my tips. Learn the cards and kind of keep track of their cards. Count the opponent's energy. Know your damage, advantages and disadvantages versus certain body types. And then kind of a last little bonus throw-in tip. Pay attention. It will definitely help you. And good luck out there. Let me know if you guys make progress, where your MMR shakes out with some of these tips. If you do like the video, please hit subscribe, like the video. And again, hopefully I'll have another video out soon that will show kind of my favorite cards that I watch out for in all of my battles. Thanks. Have a good day.